reactivity series reacting displacement of metals. So what you're going to be doing while we're doing this experiment is you've got this table and you're going to be filling it in. So we're going to be reacting these metals, so magnesium, zinc, iron and copper, with these four solutions. So we got magnesium sulfate, zinc sulfate, iron sulfate and copper sulfate. So I've written them down the same size here. So in here I've got all these little bits of magnesium, these little pieces of zinc, these are little bits of iron, and this is copper here. And this is what I'm going to add. So our solutions. So this one is magnesium sulfate. So I'll go down and we'll see which ones react. So first one, got magnesium sulfate with magnesium. So you can see there's no reaction going on, which is expected because it's magnesium with magnesium. So with displacement, we'd expect the metal to take the place of the metal in the compound. So in this case, metal would be swapping places with magnesium. So magnesium swapping with magnesium sulfate doesn't make any sense. In this case, it's zinc. So if the metal is more reactive, it will form zinc sulfate and magnesium. So you can see in here it's not reacting. This one's iron and iron sulfate. Now with this one, sometimes you can see some bubbles, which is why it's moving, and that's just because this is acidified. So the metal inside the solution sometimes starts reacting with the acid that we use to make it into a solution. So that'd be those bubbles there. So in here you can see magnesium sulfate has not reacted with any of the metals, which means none of these four metals are more reactive than magnesium sulfate. Going for zinc sulfate. So zinc sulfate, let's see if magnesium is more reactive than zinc. So we put it in. If it is, then it should start bubbling. So you can see there's some very small bubbles going on here. The magnesium's a little dirty. It's because it's oxidized in the air. But you can see the bubbles coming off here. Remember, that one's just because it's got acid in it. So bubbles coming off here, so that one has reacted. So magnesium is more reactive than zinc for that reason. Then we've got zinc reacting with zinc. So again, we shouldn't have any reaction because zinc shouldn't take the place of zinc in a compound because it's the same thing. Then we've got iron and copper. So you can see with these ones, there's no reaction on the bottom three. So far, magnesium is more reactive than zinc. Zinc is not more reactive than zinc. Copper is not more reactive than zinc. And iron is not more reactive. Go for iron sulfate. So here's iron sulfate. It's a nice yellow colour. So is magnesium more reactive than iron? So I put in a couple of drops and you can see it's starting to vigorously fizz and go black, which means yes, it is more reactive. We'll put in some drops on the zinc and you can see it's very slowly reacting here. So zinc is more reactive than iron. So if we're going close, you can see this one's going quite violently. It's actually getting really hot. You can feel the heat coming off it. And this one, you can see there's some slow bubbles. With the iron and iron shouldn't react because they are the same thing. I'm putting it in the copper. Copper again hasn't reacted with it because copper is not more reactive than zinc. You can see no reaction on that one, no reaction there. Bubbles forming around this one, and this one's quite aggressively reaction. Going for the last one, which is copper sulfate. So copper sulfate is a blue compound. And we're going to react it with each of these to see if it is more reactive. So magnesium. So you can see straight away there's quite a few bubbles coming up on that one. Zinc. You can see straight away the metal has turned black. So if you look at it compared to there, you can see it's changed colour, so it is reacting. Going for iron. There we go. So it's not reacting just yet, but I'll give it a little stir. And actually you can see, if you look at the iron, So iron is a nice grey colour, but you can actually see, I'm not sure how clear it is, let's see if my light will pick it up. It's actually changing colour, so it's going from this silver colour going to copper coloured, and this is because copper metal is forming. So as the copper sulfate reacts with the iron takes its place, forming iron sulfate, which is a green liquid. So if we leave this for long enough, it'll turn sort of the same colour as this one. And you can see copper metal is on the top there. Reacting copper with copper, so you can see nothing's happening there, as copper shouldn't react with itself. So, going through reactivity on your table, what you should have filled in. We should have got magnesium doesn't react with itself, neither does zinc and zinc, neither does iron and iron, neither does copper and copper. But magnesium with zinc sulfate, it turned black and bubbled. So went black and bubbled. Magnesium iron sulfate, you can see that this one is reacting extremely vigorously. So it's this one here. It's very, very fizzy. So vigorous fizzing. And some smoke. This one reacted again, so you can see it's almost broken down the magnesium completely, so you can see it's forming all these black bits. That's the copper metal forming, and the magnesium is breaking down. Eventually this will stop being blue and it'll actually go colourless, the same colour as the original one of magnesium sulfate, so this colour, as it breaks it down. So here, so it turned black and fizzed. These ones didn't react. So then zinc reacted with both iron sulfate and your copper. So on this one it fizzed, and on this one it turned black. Just to show you those, we can see here that this one's fizzing and this one turned black. Going for the last one, which is these, you can see that none of these have reacted. This one's got a misty colour, that's probably impurities inside the iron. Again, it's iron and iron sulfate, so I wouldn't expect it to react with itself, but because it's acidified sometimes it fizzes. This one is your copper with, sorry, it's your iron with copper sulfate, so you can see the copper is forming and the iron has actually turned copper colour. So this is copper coloured. What you need to do once you've done this is decide which one is the most reactive metal. So we're bothered about this side. So the most reactive metal out of these will be the one that's reacted with the most of our sulfate. So more ticks for the metal, the more reactive it is. What you need to do is to decide which one it is and put a tick and say put them in order and on your sheet on the questions.